Welcome back. My name is Shoeb Kagda, and I'm here today with Arief Budiman, President Director of McKinsey and Company Indonesia. We are talking about consumption and how consumption has become a major driver of economic growth in Indonesia. Arief, welcome back. Over the last maybe 5 years or so, suddenly it seems that the world has woken up to the fact that Indonesia is a huge market.
Yeah.
A consumption market, not just a productive market. Today, if I'm correct, consumption makes up about 60% of GDP, which is an all-time high, right?
Yeah.
It has never been that. How did this happen? What were the key drivers of this consumption growth?
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, there is a real growth in terms of population, and that has spurred a lot of economic activities. The resource dividend that we had also lead to increasing income for most Indonesians. So the economy has grown on average in the last decade around 5%.
Right.
And I think population growth roughly around 1%. So there is actually, obviously effectively there will be an increasing income per capita. And as always, as your income increases, you have more money, you have more cash to spend.
Disposable income is higher.
Disposable income is higher. So let's say if you are earning about 40 million rupiah per annum, most of that will go into the basic necessities. Right? And our survey is roughly 40%.
Right.
But as your income grows, for example, to 150 million, it drops to 20%. And as you go into the more average, I would say, world standard consuming class or middle class, that number can go up to go down even to 10%. So people have more and more money to spend,
right.
And they do spend, they spend more on both buying more frequently about the goods that they are actually wanting. They're also trading up to more premium products or more quality products,
right.
And they try new things. And all of this is a logical consequence of an increasing income.
Right. There are two aspects to this, of course. One, of course, is the classification of the middle class.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, it is still not quite as well defined, I think, compared to many other developed countries. And the second part of that, of course, is that historically Asians have been good savers.
Yeah.
But now we are asking them to spend, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can start with your definition of what makes a middle class family. What would be the key categories of defining someone a middle class?
So we define it as technical definition of individual who's earning $3,600 per year, or roughly $10 per day. Why? Because actually across the globe, this is and including Indonesia, this is the income level where people start to move from basic necessities.
Right.
They start to be able to get loan, consumer loan, for them to actually, for example, buy a motorcycle. They start to dine out and so on and so forth. So this is a definition that we see can be applied consistently across the world. And that number today is, in Indonesia, is roughly around 45 million, and it will grow as the economy grows. We expect, again, give and take, we can be roughly wrong, around 90 more million of this consuming class or middle class between now and 2030. So this is really an exciting economy. It's one of the largest in the world, obviously outside India and China.
Right. And in terms of Asians being savers rather than spenders, is that coming?
Yes,
that being reversed?
It's coming. Look, we did a survey about the Indonesian consumer, and what is interesting about the Indonesian consumer is, number one, they are very family-oriented. They are financially conservative. Actually, more than half of the population prefer to save, still, even today. But what is interesting is that there is a segment of that market, of this roughly 50 million people, roughly 40% of them, that starts to, as their income grow, they start to be more open, right? For example, they start to take loans. Right. So the credit, the financial service penetration in this particular segment is roughly 30% higher than average. Their probability of taking credit cards is actually higher.
Right.
So there is a segment of this big mega consuming class that is actually moving towards more spending. Now, overall, you are absolutely right that the Indonesian consumer is still financially conservative, but there is this growing new class of consumer, if you will, even within the middle class, that is more, that have a higher propensity to spend and consume.
Right. So I guess it's achieving the right balance between spending and saving, because you still need people to be, you don't want them to be over leveraged, right? In the sense like in the United States, where it's the opposite problem. People spend more than they earn. But that is it's a good problem to have, I guess.
It's a good problem to have.
And I think it should allow us to sustain consumption over the next 2-3 decades. We'll come back with Pak Arief in the next segment to talk about how we're going to sustain consumption in Indonesia. Stay with us.